wanted us to think about in relation to our goals for today is just quickly going back to our objective. And that objective is to recount stories, focusing on the central message and what's conveyed through the key details. On your switchboard, you do have a side that has the Fab Five, and you'll need your marker because we're going to use that as part of our first lesson today.
Jada, you're gonna need to scooch back, like move back there. Just walk over there. I don't got any room. You weren't even here.
So I want to go back to the book that we've been thinking around, Mr. Lincoln's Way. And today I want us to really enhance our understanding of the Fab Five. I want us to enhance our understanding of the Fab Five by thinking about how can we keep track of two characters at once with our goal of trying to establish the central message or idea at the end. So I want you to turn your Fab Five into what I'm going to do with mine, please. We're going to draw a line down the side, like you're making a column for the who or the what. So you're doing what I'm doing, please. Okay, so a line down for the who or the what, and then we're going to turn it into two rows so we can keep track of two characters at once. Okay, so you're on the side, it looks like this, and draw a line down, make a column out of the who or the what. And then create two rows, just like you would in a computer spreadsheet. Because what we want to try and do is keep track of two characters at once today. We've been just keeping track of one who or what. I think we're ready to say, let's challenge ourselves. Can we keep track of two? In the hope of identifying the central message, right, that heart piece. Then what do we learn? So we already know that one of the characters is Mr. Lincoln. I'm just going to put Mr. L, because we know that from reading this throughout the week that Mr. Lincoln, Mr. L, is the principal. Okay? So, and in here we see him right here on the cover. So we know that Mr. L is a character that we're going to keep track of. So I put Mr. L in my first row. And in my second, who do you think I might also keep track of? Call it out if you know. Eugene, right? What do they call him? Meanie Gene or Mean Gene, right? Yep, I'm going to put Gene's name. Gene. So I'm going to challenge myself to say, can I keep track of Mr. L, Mr. Lincoln, and can I keep track of Gene? I already know the who or the what, but now I want to figure out, by looking at the key details, will this help me figure out what that central message is? Now, do you think we already know what Mr. Lincoln wants, right? If you remember, we ended with him saying, well, Gene's not really a bad guy, right? He's just a little trouble. And we inferred that Mr. L wants, or needs, he wants to help Gene. And I'm just going to put help G, because I know who G is. G is Gene, right? So what I'm doing is I'm saying, I've already done some reading. I already know some of these things. So I know Mr. L, what does he want? To help Gene. But what gets in the way? What gets in the way?
Gene is still being mean.
Yeah. What?
Gene's still being a bully.
Yeah, Gene's a bully, right?
What does Gene want?
That is such a good question. One of your classmates said, well, what does Gene want? Well, now we know with Mr. Lincoln wants to help Gene, but what gets in the way? Well, he's a bully.
Because it's Grandpa.
Ooh, and yes, oh, I love that. One of your classmates just remembered a key detail. He remembered that when the grandpa was mentioned, Gene got a little emotional, right? We could tell right away that Grandpa was someone important, but we didn't know if Grandpa was still in the picture, if he was still there. So I love that you're thinking of that key detail. He's a bully, which gets in the way, but also we think, is there something with Grandpa?
I'm not a grandpa.
Okay, and we don't know, yesterday we said we didn't know if Grandpa had passed away, or Grandpa had moved away, or for whatever reason, he didn't get to see Grandpa maybe as much.
What does that say?
Okay. So right now we think who or what? Mr. Lincoln. What does he want? Well, he wants to help Gene. But what gets in the way? Well, partially Gene's a bully. And also we think there might be something on with his home life, maybe with Grandpa or someone else. Now Gene, what does Gene want?
How do you spell Lincoln?
What do you think?
Wants to see his grandpa.
And that we're not sure of, right? We're thinking, well, maybe he wants to see his grandpa. We know that
Maybe he wants to see birds.
one of the birds. So let's leave Jean there right now, and let's see if we can figure out more about Jean. So if you remember, we last left off, and Mr. Lincoln had given Jean that bird book because he noticed he was looking at the birds in the atrium.
Wait, we didn't go not that page.
A week had gone by when Eugene ran into Mr. Lincoln by the atrium looking glum. I have a problem, Mr. Lincoln said. So, said Jean. Well, that atrium was supposed to be full of birds, but they're just not coming. The principal looked into the empty atrium. Wrong plants in there to make them want to stay. Not the right food either. Eugene started to walk away. So that was Eugene telling him what was wrong. Your grandpa teach you that? Maybe. Eugene turned and looked at Mr. Lincoln for the first time. Do you suppose you could help us attract birds here to our aquarium, Eugene? And perhaps this book would help. And he handed him a new book. Eugene seemed stunned at first. Then he took the beautiful book on birds in his hands, wrapped it in his arms, and bolted down the hall. Will you do that with your switchboard? If you're going to wrap something in your arms, what does that tell you about how you're feeling about that book?
I love it.
Yeah. Look on the back. Look at your emoticon. How would you be feeling?
Happy.
Give me a happy. What else? What could you be feeling?
Proud.
Ooh, proud. What else?
Excited.
Could you, if you're holding something like this?
Surprised.
Maybe a little surprised.
Excited.
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
You could be scared, but using the context of the story, I'm thinking probably excited.
Why could you be embarrassed?
So right now, when we think about Mr. L, do you think that he still wants to help Jean?
Yes.
Yeah. But could we say he didn't know enough about Jean, but now he started to? Okay. So what does he do? What does he do? What does he give him?
A book about birds.
So he gives him a bird book. Right, and can we say, so he shows that he cares. Mr. Lincoln could have said, oh, who cares about that kid, right? He's a troublemaker. But instead of saying, oh, you're a bully, I'm going to keep my eye on you, he says, I see there's something good in there about you. And I'm going to find a way to get there. And we think he might have done that. So remember, he's been given the book. It was only 3 days later that there was a commotion in the hall. Mr. Belding rushed into Mr. Lincoln's office with Eugene in tow. Mr. Lincoln looked at Eugene in disbelief. What happened? I'll let Eugene tell you. But Eugene said nothing. He just sat there looking hateful and defiant. Those are strong words, aren't they? Hateful and defiant. But Eugene said nothing. Trouble in the lunch line? She went on. He singled out 2 of our students from Mexico. He called them brown-skinned toads and other unacceptable names. I'll take care of this, Mr. Lincoln said quietly. Mr. Lincoln sat down in front of the boy. Eugene, my skin is brown too. Eugene just glared at Mr. Lincoln. This I know, Eugene. Someone who loves birds the way that you do couldn't possibly have that kind of hate in his heart. Then Eugene began to cry. My old man got real mad when I got home late from helping you, he sobbed, for Eugene had been helping Mr. Lincoln with the atrium and the birds. He said, you're not our kind. Now, think about that. Those are some powerful words, aren't they?
I know what Jean
Talk to your elbow partner. How would you describe Jean so far? What does Jean want? What does Jean want? So notice with our Fab 5 that sometimes it's really easy to keep track of one character, but not so in the other. Mr. Lincoln was pretty easy to figure out, right? He wants to help Jean. Now we're kind of shocked. Oh, wait. Are you feeling shocked? I am, with the kind of words that Eugene would use and the way that he described some other characters. So now I'm wondering, what does Jean really want or need? I think Eugene might need a role model, right? right, but let's see. Or a counselor, yeah. Our kind. Now remember, he just said that his dad, right? His dad maybe isn't the best role model because his dad sounds like he might be a little racist. Would you agree?
Yeah.
In the way that he's talking? Yeah. Our kind, Mr. Lincoln murmured. He led Eugene. Oh, wait. He led Eugene to the window of the atrium. It was alive with the song of birds. I see sparrows, jays, cardinals, nuthatches, and mallards. Don't all of those beautiful types and colors make this a beautiful place to be for all of them? Eugene nodded. Now hold your heart for a minute. Okay? There's an example of a central message. Think about what the author is saying. She's saying, Eugene, look around you. All different kinds of birds, all different kinds of animals, all different but beautiful. And there's Mr. Lincoln trying to teach Gene a lesson, right? If we can appreciate all these beautiful animals and birds, we should be able to appreciate all the different people around us. And so there's an example of a then. Then Eugene learns that we should appreciate everyone for their differences and what they can bring to the world. Well, God made them all kinds, just like he made us, Eugene. Fact is, all of you children here with all of your cool differences are my little birds. Yes, my little birds. And that should be your answer as to what is right or wrong and what your father said. Mr. Lincoln said. So I think I can reflect here on our Fab Five. And I could say, well, what does Gene want? Well, Gene wants to help Mr. Lincoln. And remember that Eugene was helping Mr. Lincoln create the atrium with all the birds. So I could say, Gene, what does he want? Well, Gene wants to help with the birds, right? He wants to help Mr. Lincoln. Help Mr. L. But what gets in the way? Well, what gets in the way is his father, right? Yeah. His father has taught him some uncool ways of thinking about other people.
Hey, I was actually thinking.
So, oh wait.
Look, it's turning up red.
Okay, let's refocus. But, right, his father has taught him some ways that,
To be mean.
yeah, to disrespect others. So, Mr. Lincoln helps him to learn that by appreciating all the different kinds of birds and animals, we can also appreciate other people. Then we learn that we should appreciate everyone for the differences that they bring. So that was a really quick way of us thinking about how can thinking about the key details in two characters really help us to think about how to find that lesson learned. So here's my challenge for you today. When you're going off to read to self, can you do this in your own reading? Can you say, I'm going to keep track of two characters, and I'm going to see, is keeping track of the two characters going to help me get to that heart piece, that lesson learned?
Can we finish our book?
When you work on your writing, you're going to work on your books, because like we said, by rotation 3, we would really like to do some sharing. If you would like to, in this rotation, work on your writing, would you please stand up? And remember, we'll watch you go to one comfy spot and stay there. Would you go now, please? So if you're reading to self, would you please?
I'm reading to self.
And if you are going to read to self, would you stand up and go find that comfy spot, please? But I bet she might be around in the classroom. Have you looked in like all your books that are in your tray and maybe you can stuff in there?